McCann is building a defense strategy and he's moving hella shady while doing it.
What is the last update you got on your daughter's death?
We haven't had a first update yet. That's
the only thing was a brief email from the embassy stating that the investigation was ongoing.
Joe McCann may have been officially cleared of wrongdoing, but that didn't keep him out of the headlines for long. Just when many thought the controversy had finally started to fade, Joe made a stunning announcement that thrust him straight back into the center of the storm. Within minutes, social media erupted. Critics, supporters, and longtime followers of the case were suddenly locked in a heated debate, with many questioning why now. And almost instantly, the internet found itself consumed by a brand new chapter in a story that some believe is far from over.
Was Ashley Janae's fiancé. He's starting a foundation in honor after she died by do-da-do on trip, days after an engagement.
Now, it's important to understand exactly why this latest announcement is hitting so differently. Because we're not talking about just anyone. We're talking about a man who, according to reports, was barred from attending her funeral. A man whose actions in the weeks following her death have drawn intense scrutiny online, with critics accusing him of publicly revealing deeply personal details about Ashley that many believed should have remained private. And if that wasn't controversial enough, what happened next only fueled even more questions. Because once you look at the timeline, the entire situation starts to feel a lot more complicated.
If those texts were not enough to make your skin crawl, this may have been the worst tweet of them all. Joe says the Zanzibar director of criminal investigation brings to light the painful truth that no one, including me, wants to believe. Text messages and ChatGPT searches show Ashley's clear intent, at least before in the TMZ article. And the deputy said seemed. I highlighted that to you before. Joe writes in his tweet, clear intent to self-unelect.
And now, despite all of that, he's moving forward with a new project in Ashley's name, reportedly without ever sitting down with the very people who raised her. No conversation, no public sign of agreement, no indication that her family was involved at all. And that's where the controversy deepens. Because while Joe appears ready to focus on preserving Ashley's legacy, her family is still struggling to accept the official findings that came out of Tanzania. From the very beginning, they've made it clear that they still have serious questions about what really happened. Questions they say remain unanswered. And as time passes, many believe those questions are only getting louder.
It's very odd that our daughter is traveling with Joe and we don't hear anything from Joe. To me, that's very odd.
And now, as all of this continues to unfold, Ashley's family is reportedly watching from the sidelines as the same man they did not want at her final farewell moves forward with a new initiative centered around her name. And for many observers, that's where the discomfort begins. Because the deeper you dig into this story, the more complicated it appears to become. So, here's what happened. On June 13, 2026, Joe McCann spoke with TMZ and revealed that he was in the process of creating a 501c3 nonprofit organization in Ashley Jana's honor. According to Joe, the foundation would focus on suicide prevention and support for individuals struggling with self-harm. Joe explained that after the official investigation came to a close, he experienced what he described as a fresh wave of grief, but also a renewed sense of purpose. He said he wished he had been able to bring Ashley from darkness into light, adding that he wanted to ensure her story could help others facing similar struggles. He ended the announcement with a message that immediately captured attention online, saying that Ashley's death would not be in vain and that her legacy would continue to live on. But almost as soon as the announcement was made, a new wave of questions began to surface.
Starting a foundation in her honor. Let me read. Hold on, let me just see if I even have... Okay, let me just read. So it says here, her death will not be in vain and her legacy will be preserved, Joe McCann said while announcing his plans for a non-profit.
From the very beginning, Ashley's family has remained unwavering in their position. They've repeatedly stated that they never witnessed anything that suggested Ashley was battling severe emotional distress or considering harming herself. According to those closest to her, She was open, communicative, and rarely kept major struggles hidden from the people she trusted most. In their view, there were no obvious warning signs. And because of that, they continue to question how the official findings align with the woman they say they knew so well. For them, the answers still don't add up, and that lingering doubt has only fueled even more speculation.
Zanzibar just released a report on the death of influencer Ashley Robinson. They say that she attempted to hang herself at the Zuri Hotel, and that was the cause of her death.
Tanzanian officials also made their position unmistakably clear. According to authorities, their investigation uncovered no evidence suggesting criminal involvement, and Joe McCann was formally cleared of wrongdoing. Soon after, Joe's legal team began speaking publicly, appearing across multiple media outlets, including TMZ, to emphasize that he had been fully exonerated and should be viewed as an innocent man. Under those circumstances, many expected Joe to step back, allow his attorneys to handle the public response, and remain largely out of the spotlight. But that's not what happened. Instead, Joe took to social media himself, publicly thanking the Tanzanian police force for what he described as a professional, comprehensive, and thorough investigation. He maintained that his focus throughout the entire ordeal had been on cooperating with authorities and bringing Ashley home. Yet, even as those statements were being shared online, Ashley's family continued to challenge the official findings. From the very beginning, they've expressed doubts about the circumstances surrounding Ashley's death, describing aspects of the case as suspicious and insisting that important questions remain unanswered. And despite the investigation being officially closed, the family appears determined to keep searching for those answers. Because for them, this story still isn't over.
So, as you've seen, the local report had claimed that she took her own life. Did you guys ever think that Ashley had any mental health issues?
I would think that's farther from the truth. If you go to her page, as you can see, she's a beacon of light. She likes being on, it's like being in the camera. She's an influencer. She loves her family.
She loved her family.
She loved her family.
But Joe's attempt to repair his public image didn't stop there. And many critics believe this is where the controversy intensified even further. Because in an effort to support the narrative surrounding Ashley's death and his new foundation, Joe began sharing deeply personal details about Ashley's private struggles with the media, details many feel should have remained private. According to Joe, doctors told Ashley in March that she might not be able to have children, news he claims devastated her emotionally. He also revealed that during a snowboarding trip in Oregon that same month, Ashley reportedly suffered a serious concussion after hitting her head on a rock. Joe said the injury changed her dramatically, triggering severe panic attacks and behavior he described as unrecognizable. But he didn't stop there. Joe further claimed that, in the weeks before her death, Ashley allegedly attempted to jump from a moving vehicle and later tried to walk into oncoming traffic. And almost immediately, those revelations sparked another wave of backlash. Because many people now believe Joe is willing to publicly expose even Ashley's most private struggles in order to defend himself and repair his rapidly declining reputation.
Last update you got on your daughter's death?
We haven't had a first update yet. That's the
only thing was a brief email from the embassy stating that the investigation was ongoing. That's it.
And we don't hear anything from Joe. To me, that's very odd.
But no matter how many statements Joe puts out, many people say it still hasn't changed public perception, especially given the questions and controversy that have followed him since this case first made headlines. Remember when Joe insisted that his main priority was bringing Ashley home? Critics point to what happened next and argue that the timeline tells a different story. Joe McCann is reportedly the CEO of a crypto investment company and is believed to have a net worth in the millions. Financially, many assume he had the resources to help. Yet, according to reports, Ashley's father, Harry Robinson, ultimately launched a public GoFundMe campaign to cover travel expenses, funeral costs, and the expense of bringing Ashley's remains back from Tanzania to New Jersey. That fundraiser reportedly brought in more than $50,000 from over 1,200 people, complete strangers. And for many following the case, that's become another difficult question they can't seem to ignore.
McCann is building a defense strategy and he's moving hella shady while doing it. For various reasons, I cannot tell you right now why Joe is building a defense strategy, but I can lead you to your own conclusions and I'm very confident you'll be able to figure it out. I'm doing all of this to get ahead of Joe because not only is he building a defense strategy, he's also building a manipulation blitz. He will be using a TMZ to change the narrative like we have never seen before, and I refuse to let him win.
And now, that same man is asking the public to view a foundation created in Ashley's name as a final act of love and remembrance. But for many observers, the timing has only intensified the controversy. Fast forward to May 5th, 2026. Ashley Jana was laid to rest at Second Baptist Church in Piles Grove, New Jersey, where family, friends, and loved ones came together to honor her life, share memories, and say their final goodbyes. It was a day centered on Ashley, her life, her legacy, and the people who knew her best. But even that emotional farewell wasn't free from controversy.
I would have thought that he would have been in constant contact with the family to say, don't worry about anything, I can cover it. You are my family, irrespective of what happened to Ashley. You would have thought if he had any money, I have covered it. Take the flights. He would have even said, let's do the private plane that he was doing, the private jet and everything that he was doing with Ashley. I extend that to the family. He's not extending that to the family for a whole bunch of things. He doesn't have the money, one. He's not close to the family, two. And he has guilt all over his feet.
Joe wasn't there. According to reports, Ashley's family made the decision not to allow him to attend the service. And by the time of the funeral, it was being reported that the family and Joe had not spoken once since Ashley's death in April. Not one conversation. Joe's legal team later pushed back through TMZ, claiming that Ashley's mother, Yolanda, had contacted Joe shortly after the tragedy asking what had happened, that Joe responded immediately, and that no further communication followed. His representatives say he eventually stopped reaching out of respect for the family's silence. But the family had previously shared a very different account. Earlier in the investigation, relatives claimed they had received little to no communication from Joe at all, and instead were allegedly getting updates about Ashley through hotel representatives rather than directly from him. Two completely different versions of events. And that contradiction has only fueled even more questions about what was really happening behind the scenes.
I am outside of the Second Baptist Church in South Jersey, the church where Ashley Janae's funeral just wrapped up. Earlier this morning at 9 a.m., there was a wake, and at 11, there was her funeral.
Two completely different narratives. And regardless of which version people choose to believe, many online have questioned whether a fiancé should have been the primary source of information during such a devastating moment, not hotel staff. Ashley's family has long suggested that the breakdown in communication was about more than grief. According to them, the silence raised concerns, and they've repeatedly implied that important questions still remain unanswered. And for many observers, one detail continues to stand out. The family ultimately laid Ashley to rest without her fiancé present. That alone has fueled endless speculation. So now, the internet is asking a much bigger question. Why has this foundation announcement sparked so much backlash? Why aren't more people viewing it simply as a grieving partner turning pain into purpose? Because it appears this story is about far more than a charity.
Very odd that our daughter is traveling with Joe and we don't hear anything from Joe. To me, that's very odd. And initial call that she got from Joe was 11 hours after something had transpired in the room. And that's very odd. 11 hours later,
11 hours.
Something had transpired, and Joe just relayed to Yolanda that Ashley was okay and she was stable and she was okay and don't worry about it.
But that she was at the hospital.
Yes. 11 hours later.
So have you spoken to him since, and what has he been saying?
There has been no communication.
Wow.
Because Ashley's family has made one thing absolutely clear from the very beginning. They do not accept the official suicide ruling. They've publicly challenged the findings from day one, insisting that too many questions remain unanswered. According to those closest to Ashley, nothing about her life or behavior suggested the outcome described in the official investigation. In fact, when family members were asked about Ashley's state of mind before the trip to Africa, they described her as excited, optimistic, and thrilled to be celebrating her birthday with the man she believed was the love of her life. And that's exactly why this foundation announcement is being viewed so differently by some people online. Because by launching a suicide prevention charity in Ashley's honor, Jo is permanently connecting her name and legacy to the suicide ruling, a ruling her family still disputes. As a result, social media has exploded with speculation. Some critics argue that this isn't simply grief transformed into purpose. They believe the foundation could also influence how Ashley's story is remembered publicly for years to come, especially while her family continues to question the official conclusions. Jo has also responded directly to some online comments. When one person asked whether he had ever seen signs that Ashley was struggling, noting that she always appeared happy in photos, Jo replied, "Instagram is not real life. Few understand this." For now, the foundation remains an announcement reported by TMZ, but many expect Ashley's family to respond and possibly push back publicly. The investigation may be officially closed, but for Ashley's loved ones, the search for answers appears far from over. And Jo's latest announcement has reignited one major question: who ultimately gets to decide how Ashley Jana's name, story, and legacy are remembered going forward? We'll be watching closely for the next development.